Welcome. See to tea time with Kitty. Welcome, giving everyone a chance to get all settled in on this beautiful day. Okay, no problem. Welcome. And while we're getting logged in, if there's anyone that's visiting that's unable to chat in the box, you can always text me at 202-758-8941. So right now we're going to get ready to introduce our co-host for today. Our co-host is my very own big brother, Chucky. And today, hey Donald, and today we're going to be talking about custody. And while we're talking about custody, we're going to also be talking about advocating for fathers. Hey sis, and knowing if fathers are receiving equal rights when it comes to custody. Before I get in that part of it, I do want to say on 104.1, which is my favorite station, they talk about Relationships Wednesday. So before we go any further, if there's anyone that wants to shout out their spouse while we're waiting for him to join, if there's anyone wanting to shout out their spouse, this is the time to do so. People want to be appreciated. Hey, Shamika, not just tolerated. And part of the reason that we have to deal with custody is because we're no longer together. So that's why it's so important that if you have someone great, if you have someone that you admire, that you have someone that you love above measures, meaning that you can be married to this person, but they've done something special that make you just want to be their boyfriend or their girlfriend all over again. Please make sure you shout out your spouse. I tell my spouse every day how much I love him, how much I adore him, how I'm thankful. Hey, sis. So if there's anybody celebrating an anniversary, before we get into this topic, now is the time. I know my brother, hey, auntie, I'm about to say, hey, uncle, auntie to Camille, my auntie. But hey, niece, and my little auntie, Kamala Harris. So I know that my brother just recently celebrated his birthday. So I know my sister is not waiting to shout him out. If it's no more than a birthday, if it's no more than I love you, you don't have to share their name. I know some people are private, but I just want to hear how much your spouse completes you. I know when I would hear the term better have, I was like, better have. Ain't nobody better than me. But having someone that really meets those needs in so many different ways does matter, and you really have to appreciate it because in some cases love is just not real anymore. So again, if anyone want to take another second while we're waiting for Chucky to join, to shout out their spouse, if it's a birthday, if it's an anniversary, hey sister, or whatever the case may be, here's your time to shout out your phenomenal spouse. People wants to be appreciated and not just tolerated. So while you all are shouting that out, we're going to welcome my brother to the show. Okay, so I am at his house visiting today. Nice cozy spot. We're going to have some Chinese food after the show and spend a little brother sister time. Just a little background of my brother. He's the oldest of the Bubblicious kids. Me and his birthday is one day apart. We're extremely close, have a really good relationship. Not just being close. Some people think close is when you may have somebody back. But not only that, but just being able to vent to one another. We talk about things, we make decisions together regarding my mom or just in our personal lives. So he's very special to me. Oh, yes. Shout out to my loving, attentive, and supportive husband. He's such a great dad and grandfather. We celebrate his birthday on March the 3rd. I appreciate this man so much. And I appreciate him so much for you. And I appreciate what he does for our family as a whole. Not only is he your husband, but he's a great brother to me. He always supports me in anything I'm doing. So I'm just so thankful. And anybody else, tell him to bring me and Millie some lo mein. We have a lo mein too, Sherelle. So if you would come on to the show, I'm going to get out the way. You'll hear my voice a little bit in the background, but we're going to let him take it over from here. Is this your wine?
Yeah, I don't drink wine, but okay.
Okay. So we're having tea wine for tea time. So you're going to hear me kind of in the background, and we're going to let him get started and take us away, okay? We're talking about custody. Some of us don't have those issues anymore. We may have gotten married, we may have outgrown them. The children may be grown, but just still to reflect and talk about how it feels when we talk about this. Okay, Hey, Nah. Okay, sister say hey,
Hi,
Jackie.
Sharon.
Okay, so there you go. Take it away. Do you want me to read off anything you answered, or how you want to do it?
Nah, I'm gonna go through a couple of bullet points, and then I'm gonna leave the floor open for questions. So, yeah, custody is what Ken and I talked about first off, but then I didn't want this to be a bashing thing. I just wanted it to be a knowing your legal rights thing.
Excellent.
And I just wanted to keep it to co-parenting versus making this a male-female thing. Okay, so co-parenting is created when two individuals have a child with children in common, that live in different homes. That's when it's a good idea to start having conversations about children's daily necessities. The conversation should lead to a framework of creating a written document that spells out details on how you want to manage the raising of your child. The best example of that is typically when we separate, of course, I'm divorced, we think about the here and now. Like we're always thinking about the child right then and there. At the time I was divorced, Sharia was in middle school. So we didn't think about high school, what she'll be taking up or anything like that. So that is the most opportunistic time to do that, because once you start having conflicts, and that's assuming that you're not having them already, it becomes very, very difficult to try to co-parent together. It's a real common practice to set up your agreement based on the present. And it's a real thing that we don't think about the entire 18 years of a child's life. When we're talking about things of the present and when we're thinking about the everyday needs of the child, when it comes around to birthdays and family holidays and any type of non-conflicting schedule, a non-conflicting schedule would be a weekend that I want the baby and Kitty don't have, or she's okay with that. That would be non-conflicting. Sometimes you have situations where it may be my mom's birthday, and for my co-parent, it may be her son's birthday. Now you have a conflicting schedule.
Okay.
That's when it gets a little bit difficult. Okay. When you introduce money, that normal conversation of we can do it half and half gets a little bit complicated. Money could be anything from Pampers, milks, baby items, child care, before and after care, medical bills, and of such. When it comes to money, people, when they're separated, tends to try to track how much they're spending. So you'll get that situation where I just spent $500. What do you mean there's something else that needs to be paid for? A comprehensive parenting plan is solely designed to mitigate conflicts between the two parents. Some agreements will need to be modified. Major life changes between parties will require that modification outright, whether you do it through the court or not through the court. Whenever there's a major life change, relocation of job, relocation of where you live, the agreement has to be revisited with that same open mind that you had when you first created one.
And your nephew just checked in and said, yo, I guess that means hi.
Okay. How time will be divided. The most common thing we do is go, let's just do every other weekend. That right there will lead to a conflict. What happens when every other weekend doesn't land on my birthday or my mother's birthday, which we treat as a family holiday, or Thanksgiving? So you really need to actually blow up a calendar, look at the calendar, write in what dates are important to both parties, and then go through the rest with whatever type of rotation you want to go with.
Okay, so let me pause you right here for 1 second, okay? Because I like that idea. You said create a schedule. So let's just say if you did decide to do a week on, a week off, but then you also run into those important dates, would it be okay if I get 2 weekends in a row, only because the weekend that would have been your weekend would have been would be my birthday weekend, so the child gets to stay with me? Is that how that would, or that's different from that?
So if you're doing week off, week on, we're basically saying we're using a child that is not in school. Either we're doing a child that's not in school or a child is in school and y'all gonna live on the same block.
Okay.
It's not realistic to do a parenting plan around week on, week off.
Okay.
Because you have to account for school first.
Got it. Okay.
So for your question, yes, you can do it that way. What I've learned from doing mediation myself is that you want to put yourself in a position where you do trades, right?
Okay.
So in a situation like you're asking, where this is my week, damn, that's my mother's birthday, or my birthday, and I didn't think about that.
Right.
Okay. For that week in May, you can take this week in June. What trades do is keep you from going back to court over and over and over again, right? So that's what you're thinking about. Like, you have to actually blow up that whole calendar and go through that calendar saying, okay, this day is important, this day is important, this day is important. And then circle back to whatever you want your routine to be. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. And I just want to recognize some of those persons have made comments. One coming from my daughter as well, my oldest girl. And the fact that when we think about custody, I kind of put it in there with the male type of thing, but also it can be women dealing with custody battles as well. So I just want to make sure, note of that we're not slighting anyone. We always want to make the show male and female friendly because both are parents and both are important. And I want to reflect my sister Flood. She stated that that makes a lot of sense about the calendar. And then your daughter, my niece, said that she agrees with Ronita. Okay, so you can go ahead.
So yes, definitely the topic of this discussion is co-parenting. I spend about 18 months in court, and you'll be amazed at how many males get it. Like, you will not suppress my right to parent. But back to the topic. Where do you leave off at? Oh, and holidays, you have to account for holidays. So for Maryland itemizes holidays. So when you're doing a parenting schedule, you have to take the holidays out of the calendar. The holidays are supposed to have some type of proportionate divide. One of the things that we did was alternate Thanksgiving and Christmas. So the year I got Thanksgiving, she has Christmas, and vice versa.
Okay.
But when your agreement or schedule runs through a holiday and there's a conflict and it goes to mediation and that doesn't work and it goes to the court, they're just going to outright decide. They're not even going to talk to you about it. You want the agreement to withstand the test of time. And what I mean by the test of time is, can this agreement survive from year 1 to year 18? Because the child's going to college, year 22. Like, can it withstand it? More often than not, it can't. What an attorney would typically do is write the agreement in segments, from this range to this range, from this range to this range. But who wants to shell out $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for a lawyer to write the agreement? In Maryland, they use mediators to actually write the agreement, where you're actually sitting down and going through all the things that are important to you. They're going to bring up some things that you probably didn't think about, and you'll come up with a workable plan where you're not going back and forth fighting. So for most of us, a lot of times when we're separating from the other co-parent, it's a little bit contentious, right? Like, so just trying to figure out what they should be eating for dinner can be a challenge. So I said the statement, the test of time. The test of time is really the theory how an agreement has to be built. The test of time simply means that, does the agreement adjust to the changing environment of the child? What we don't think about, and what a good mediator will have you think about, is, where would the child live? How long would the child live in that area? Where would the child attend school? If you're in a Maryland high school, what you're going to major in? How would the child be transported to and from? What is a meeting location if you're unable to transfer the child between the two parents? Do you need to use a sister or a grandmother to facilitate that transfer?
Okay, so I think the question, the mediator, are they through the courts?
So it is through the court, but I kind of have that at the bottom where I'm talking about voluntary and involuntary mediation, because you have both. But yes, the mediator is through the court. The court will typically have some on hand to help you out. Right now, the going rate is about it's about 250 a session, but a session is actually 2 to 2.5 hours long. So if you really break it down, it's like $100 an hour.
So when you say the court will have you do a mediator, do the parents have to pay for the mediator?
Correct.
So they'll order the parents to go to a mediator and you pay.
Right. So so you have mediation voluntary, meaning that I'm going to list all the things that I want in this schedule, in this agreement. Now that I've listed all the things, then Kitty comes behind me and lists all the things she has to have. More often than not, there's going to be a percentage of those things that, both of y'all not going to be able to get it your way. What the court would like to happen is to use a mediator to help you navigate through that. Because with a mediator, you're actually having a conversation with a neutral party to kind of resolve it. That's the only opportunity you get to have a voice. Once it goes back to court unmediated, they just make a decision. And you're rolling the dice what type of things they'll give you and what type of things they won't. Like, you really have to be able to articulate how your right as a parent has been suppressed in order to get all those things you want. Got another question?
No, that was it for that. Okay.
So we're doing what if?
You should take a sip of your tea wine. Yeah. So you can kind of, yeah. That's too much. Okay, somebody just say that's
and keep letting me know when they have a question.
Okay.
What happens if the co-parent decide to move? And that move could be locally or it could be across state lines. What can you do about it if you're that parent who wants to get your child every other weekend and there's a 1 hour or 2 hour drive in this area right here? What happens if the co-parent change jobs? And again, we're talking about either person. Like, you don't think about that when the baby is Yari size or Millie size. What if the parent lose their job? Because loss of income will allow a person not to be able to fulfill the obligations of the agreement. And then the number one deal breaker, new people. I could tell you, even at my age, I didn't think about the environment of new people because I'm very sensitive when it comes to my girls. And when that occurs, if you're a dad like me, like, that makes me uncomfortable as hell. What do you mean this new guy is going to be in the same space with my daughter? Like, I don't trust anybody by default. But you do need to learn how to navigate that. And for me, the number one thing I did was just talk to Sharia. Like, just make sure it's clear that lap time is for me and hugs is for me, and you're always wearing short.
Excellent. Ronita said good. That was a good one. Excellent.
Have conversation. Like, we already see how much the internet programs our children, and sometimes you find that conversation that's uncomfortable for us as a parent is not so uncomfortable for them. Because I had Tab as a daughter, and she didn't have any boundaries on what she can talk about. So make sure that even with critical conversations, you're having that conversation with your kid, because the reality of it is the child or children, the parent, the male, the female, the co-parent creates a triangle. And that triangle should spin like a wheel. And the only way it can spin like a wheel is for everybody to be on the same page. My daughter is 14. She don't get decision-making rights, but I really feel like it's really, really important. Thank you, Sharon. I feel like it's really, really important that they know the plan. Like, some people, like my mom, just do what I tell you to do and don't say nothing back. But they should know the plan. They don't need to have voting rights to know the plan. And I'm still on what ifs.
The kids. Mm-hmm.
I'm still on what ifs. How would you pay for educational costs? I can tell you, I have a lot of friends that call someone up and say whether they need a uniform or whatever, and the other parent would do backflips, right? Because without the plan, without the person prepared, because the reality of it is all of us aren't responsible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was in my 20s and I used to tell Crystal, I was like, all right, make up the list on Wednesday, make sure I get it by the payday on Friday, and I pick up the stuff. And I feel like Crystal and I were really, really close raising a child. But even when she catch me by surprise, like, okay, you got to pay for this. Sometimes money don't stretch but so far. So again, creating a plan, emergencies do come up. You know, you can't prevent that. But you want to stay on a plan. Then I want to roll into medical costs. Some people feel like if I got medical insurance on my child, then that means I cover medical. But is that really fair? Because if I got medical costs that I'm paying 2 weeks for, why wouldn't you pick up the co-pays, any side pays, any medication or whatever?
That's fair. Okay.
And the whole purpose around the mediation is to make the people be reasonable, because we have trouble doing it on our own. Another role of the mediator is how decisions are even made. Like, how do you talk about it? Like, how do you break the tie, or whatever the case may be? How do you mitigate conflicts? Because prior to the mediator, it's going to be on the parents. And the number one thing that creates the conflict is one parent feeling like they're not being supported by the other parent. A good example of that would be if my child was listening to a particular type of music with a lot of profanity in it, and I'm communicating to the other parent like, I really got a problem with this. Well, there's nothing wrong with that music. She know right from wrong, and she can listen to it. And if you don't want her to listen to it there, then she could just listen to it here. That can be that's a disaster in a co-parent dynamic, because now you're playing the child. Okay, if you want to listen to that type of music, you can't listen to it at your dad's house, so you need to tell him you don't want to go there. Mm-hmm. You put the child in a very uncomfortable position. Like, on the most part, when you're a co-parent, the intent is got to be on the same page. Did I miss any questions? I applaud you. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you, Ronnie. That's Ronnie the quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So conflicts. So the way it works is you have conflicts. What you're going to end up doing is you're going to do some type of contempt motion, because you're arguing that your rights were suppressed. So let me rewind a little bit, because I skipped something. In the eyes of the law, both parents are totally co-equal, and you have all the rights to be the parent unless you choose not to take those rights. The other parent can't trick you or modify it or anything like that. You have all the rights. Both parties can go to court, request full custody, and it's granted. The problem comes in with trying to write the schedule. So for any male who feels like she keeps me away from my child, that shit died 20 years ago.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
It died 20 years ago.
So that's coming from a male. That didn't come from me. It died 20 years ago. It died
20 years ago. You have all the rights under the law. You know, like, I had multiple contempts upheld in court. Multiple. So that tells you that although the court process is extremely slow, tedious, it gets on your nerve,
invasive,
they're not going to allow the father to go under this premise of you're the secondary parent, because you're not. You just got to not want to.
And that probably was the case about 20 years ago. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's why I said it died 20
years ago. Yeah, because I know in DC, for one, was very discriminatory towards Black males and their fathers. They actually had some lawsuits where attorneys were representing African-American males in DC to make sure that their rights was upheld when it came to family court. So if you need help with getting any of that information, don't let that be a barrier. I will assist you. I'm going to have Dayan to put her legal information. She practiced family law in the chat. So Dayan, when you see this, if you could put that in the chat, so that you can know that you do have rights, and please, please, please exercise them. Not only males, and we're talking about males primarily, but if you are a sister, if you are a mother, if you are a wife, a girlfriend, help advocate for your spouse, because men are not that engaged with the court system. For the most part, they'll stay far away from it. But if you being a woman in their life, you play a role. So this is part of the role that you'll play as a sister, as a mother, as a wife, to help them, get that done. And let's see, it works when one parent moves out of the state and does not tell the other parent. Okay, how does it work?
So for that question, first of all, if it's Maryland, I don't want to speak to another state, but typically Maryland, Virginia, and DC, they're kind of on the same page. When you move out of state and don't tell the other parent, and the other parent has full custody, that matters. If they have full custody, that's against the law. That's a violation of law. You do a contempt order, you take them to court. And
Trell, Miss Trell, because she had said thank you back there when you were saying, I think it was for the men, when you were saying the thing about the fathers.
Okay. And then for Sharon, what you do is alternate when both parties have full custody.
Okay.
So I do even years and and another parent to do odd years.
Okay. And so Dayon, I hope that you're on with us. Make sure you put your law information in the chat. But the other thing I wanted to know from you or Chucky is can both parents have? Did you say joint custody or full custody? Which one?
Full custody.
Full custody. Okay.
Just like a full joint custody, but
a
it's
full joint.
full.
So both parents can have
full
the use the lingual language.
Right.
Full custody. Okay,
Correct.
got it. Okay.
Both parents can have full custody, even though one parent the child would go to right custodian. Equal. Okay, thank you, Yanni. You put that on there? No, you're good. So Yanni gave you the legal definition, but yeah, you both have it even with the child. So in my circumstances where my daughter go to school where her mom resides, almost everything that's non-school belongs to me. That's another thing that you need to think about when you create distance. If you're a female or a male that's keeping a baby, the court want it to be as equitable as possible. And what's going to happen is you're going to find that I move further away. I got the child going to the school I want going to, and I don't get any holidays. I don't get any weekends.
Wow. So
because they're looking at a 365-day calendar.
And school monopolizes a lot of
and school is taking out over 8 months. So I think I got everybody's question. I hope I didn't miss one.
You did.
Okay. So, and then we were about to roll into mediation. So here's what happens. You have a conflict, you go to court, you file a contempt order. If the judge finds that the contempt order is valid, they're going to uphold it right there in court. They're going to schedule you for mediation, because once it's upheld in court, now we have to do remedies. How do we make the other person whole? Okay, so Sherelle question is it a good idea to go for joint custody while trying to co-parent? I would definitely, and I'm going to let Chucky answer, I would definitely say yes, because I feel like when there's an understanding in life, there's no room for a misunderstanding. I think the number one thing people do is don't discuss it until it's an issue. And I think that it should be talked about before it's an issue. Anyone that's not married and have a child, there should be a custody agreement. Because a lot of times if you're married and it goes into divorce, hopefully it won't, then that's discussed with your divorce decree. Correct. However, if you are single, I don't care how cute he is, I don't care when the last time y'all went on a movie date. If you all are not married, there should be an agreement in place. The best time to make positive agreements are when you're on good terms. So Chucky, you can go ahead and answer. So pretty much echoing what Kitty said, it's like, it's difficult enough to try to work out an agreement or co-parent when you have issues already. What you have to really think about is, how do I protect myself when that other person's not going to do what they're supposed to do? You have to think about that. And when you're happy, that's the best time to have that conversation, because you're able to find common ground. Even in mediation, they're trying to find, it's almost as if there's two sessions. Let's just do everything we agree on, because we're going to argue forever on the stuff we don't agree on. Right. If both parties willfully want to do this together, then full custody is the only option. Now to Flood, Rachel. Now to Flood. I know in DC, I'm not sure about Maryland and Virginia, because we kind of talk about the DMV on this show, but in DC, neither parent has custody of a child when they're born in the District of Columbia. If Dayon doesn't have the answer to it for Maryland, because she practices in Maryland, I will get it and share it next week, as well as Virginia. But I know in DC, neither parent has custody. So if you get into a dispute with the other parent, whoever takes the child, that's who the child go with. And on that note, and that's the same for our agency, Department of Human Services, where I work. Whoever beats the other parent to apply for TANF first gets it. Mothers coming in all the time. Food stamps. All the child has to do is be in the home with the parent for 1 day out of a month. So the child can be with you the other 29 days, and they can be with the other parent the 1 day. And if that person beats you to the Department of Human Services and applies for food stamps, that's what the agency will go with, until other information or supporting documents may reveal something different or may not. But just know that if he beats you to that Social Security number and he wants to go get food stamps, you're going to be really disappointed, because it's going to truly be a struggle trying to get the case reverted back to you. Okay. So we're about to do involuntary mediation. So involuntary mediation is when it's court appointed. In situations, there could be a situation where mediation is ordered and one parent has clearly violated the rules of Maryland law. So the agreement would never supersede Maryland law. The agreement is between the triangle, parents, child, but it can't have anything in it that already supersedes law. So when you're arguing the case and you're in court and you're identifying these items that you feel violates your right to parent, depending on how that judge come back and see that, it could be a situation where, okay, other parent, you're footing the entire bill. And not only was my case read off like that, there were a couple others where there's this notion, and this is the only time I'm going to single things out, the mother really feels like they're the primary parent because they carried the baby. And I get that. That makes a lot of sense. The reality of it is if you ever suppress the dad, you're going to learn in a real bad way. That's both of y'all baby equally. So
I like that for children. I like both parents equally. I like that for the children.
So to go to Sherelle's point, it's like if everything's well and everything's going good, you got to start hammering out those things that are each other's responsibility. You got to start going ahead and getting that joint custody out of the way. Because in the best case scenario, no, I'm not ready to do that. Okay, go for full custody by yourself. As long as you're giving the other person the opportunity, that is perfectly fine if they want to opt out. Now, when you're able to write the agreement yourself, or you already have a court appointed agreement in place, things could come up that you didn't think about, that the mediator didn't talk about. Mostly it'll be around jobs, relocating, loss of job, a severe change in work. I work during the day, now all of a sudden I got to work at night. That totally changed the dynamics of caring for a child. For those things, you can actually go back to the court or go back to that mediator and just do an addendum where you're just dealing with that new issue. They're really, really cheap, like $75 to $100. You sit down with the guy, you probably do one session and you hammer those things out. And that's what so the agreement itself is still court ordered, but you can have an addendum that can be voluntary. In a situation where you have mom and dad, they're new parents, and they're just getting to walk and they want to sit down and do an agreement, you can do that. You can do it and you can go to a notary because you have to make your agreement legal. Like you can't just have an agreement.
And verbal's not.
Yeah, and verbal, you're asking for an argument. Because I can guarantee you're going to love that person day the 14th or March the 14th, and y'all be at war by April 8th.
Wow,
14th.
Ronnie said you'd be surprised how many deadbeat mothers in this generation.
Well, I've seen a lot, but that's not what the show is about. I've seen quite a few. I'm not going to call them out.
Sometime. Right.
But that's really my presentation. I want to leave time for some more questions.
So did anyone have any questions? Is there anything else that you wanted to ask, Chucky? Once I'm off the air in a few minutes, we've already went a little over. You can always text me at 202-758-8941. Let me put that out in your ear that I am looking for sorry, I am looking for someone who does taxes to host the show soon. If not by the end of March, at least by the first week of April, so we can have some good tax ideas. I'm going to reach out to Tamika Estep and see if she'll be interested in doing it for me. But if you know anyone else that may be interested or to co-host with her to talk about taxes, if we haven't already did our taxes, hey, Tanny.
Oh, that's Tanny. Oh, what's up, Tanny?
So make sure that if you need some help with taxes, we want to give you some of that information because we're in tax season now. And although about 5 years ago, I would be so excited when tax time came around with all these kids and a house, I just knew I was getting something back. But now it ain't that easy. So I'm trying to I don't even want to get much back, but I just want to at least break even. So if you have an expertise in that area and you would like to have for us to have you on Tea Time, please get out to me so that we can get you on here as soon as possible to share the knowledge and to share the wealth. Dayan is still working on the second venue confirming for our anniversary, which is supposed to be March the 27th. Just a little meet and greet, just to see some of those people. You book. Oh, okay. So Sunday, March 27th, Tea Time will celebrate their first anniversary at Levi's in Clinton, Maryland. More information will be coming with the time, so we can make sure people ain't showing up for the free food that ain't been on Tea Time. So I will be reaching out to you all. Send me a text. I can give you all the details. Come out and have something to eat. The numbers for COVID is down. You can still bring your mask if you want. Your meal is on me. You'll receive a free gift, and we'll take a few pictures in front of a nice backdrop. So I'm hoping to see you all on March 27th. Please put that on your calendar. We're going to do it early so that you can get out. Ronita, we had not only Ronita, but we have a few others that's not in the area, and I'm going to figure out how I can mail you a gift card or something, and you got to send me a picture so that we can upload it for the Tea Time anniversary. But I do want to say again to you all, if there's anything that you want to update us on, okay, Sarita, thank you. Anything that you want to update us on, or always willing to share. If you want to talk about hair care, lashes, join us on Tea Time because it's very important that we get our network together and going. So love you all as always, and thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Someone just texted me and said thank you for that free meal. Okay, and thank you all so much. I'm taking y'all to Levi's so that y'all can't be trying to get no $50 plate. I think the most meal would be about $20, something I can afford. It shouldn't be no more than $20. So if you thought you was get some steak and lobster, you'll be paying for that yourself, right? But I'm looking forward to seeing you all. Love you guys, and thank you so much for sipping with a sister. Thank you so much for joining my brother today, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Peace.
That was great.